Welcome in to the Punt and Pass podcast. I'm your host, Drew Butler, joined alongside my co-host, Jake Fromm. Be sure to follow us on social media at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He's at Fromm Jake. Puntandpass.com, the number one destination for all things college football. Week 9 of the 2024 college football season is in the books. We are headed towards November. That's right. Bye weeks for teams in the SEC are upon us. The Dogs, of course, and the Gators had a bye week last weekend, Jake, as did Tennessee and a couple of others. And we are on to November. It is the closing stretch of the regular season. It's crazy to think that the NFL kicking up in full gear as well. The Detroit Lions had a monster win on Sunday over the Tennessee Titans. How are you, brother? Great to talk to you.
Yeah, man, doing great. Coming off a big win at home. So, man, the vibes are good. The boys are buzzing, as they would say.
Yes.
And college football is getting better, Coach. Just like you said, we are almost
That's
here
crazy.
into November. This is crazy. This is bizarre. It happens way too fast. Can't wait to dive into it.
No question about it. Halloween is on Thursday of this week, and obviously fall break coincides for both the University of Georgia and the University of Florida as everybody descends upon the beaches of South Georgia, the Jacksonville area, Ponte Vedra. Always a special time to get down to Georgia, Florida weekend. You said it. The vibes are right. The boys are buzzing. If you want the vibes to be right in your relationship or in life in general, head on over to Solomon Brothers Jewelers. This episode of Punt and Pass presented to you by our awesome partners at Solomon Brothers Jewelers. Simply put, it's the best jewelry store experience in the Atlanta area. They have 3 amazing locations. You can choose from the OG 17th floor Tower Place in Buckhead. There's a location just past the Avalon in Alpharetta and a brand new store south of the city in Sharpsburg. Here's what they do for all Punt and Pass listeners. When you go in store and you tell them Punt and Pass sent you, you can get up to 20% off your jewelry purchase. They have unbelievable engagement rings, wedding bands, accessories, watches, jewelry. Of course, Solomon Brothers is the best. Go in there. The in-store experience is unmatched. The selection is top tier. The employees, the service that you get there, Jake, it is simply phenomenal. I cannot say it enough. We love Solomon Brothers. They've helped me out time and again in my own relationship. I've got 3 daughters. I've got to become a friend
That's
with
right.
a jeweler that I can trust. So Jaron is that guy for me. He can be the same guy for you. Head on over to Solomon Brothers today. Mention Punt and Pass sent you. You can get up to 20% off your jewelry purchase. Check them out online, SolomonBrothers.com, and on social media at Solomon Brothers. Yeah, a little bit more of a quiet weekend, Jake. You know, obviously Georgia didn't play. A couple of other SEC teams had bye weeks. I think there's a couple of more bye weeks this week, if I'm not mistaken. And then it really picks up. College football playoff rankings start coming out. We'll touch on that in just a little bit. But there was a big game on Saturday night in the SEC. Texas A&M hosted LSU. LSU undefeated since that week 1 loss against USC. Texas A&M also undefeated since that week 1 loss against Notre Dame, and they clashed at Kyle Field. And Texas A&M took care of business. Remember, they were a 2.5-point favorite, Jake. I like Texas A&M. I thought they were going to be an underdog at home. Vegas said otherwise. And at halftime, you weren't looking too good if you like Texas A&M. They were down 17-7 at half, Jake. Then they made a change at quarterback. Connor Wegman out, Marcel Reed in. A&M wins the second half 31-6 against LSU. They win the game in big-time fashion, 38-23. Texas A&M is now 7-1 overall, 5-0 in the SEC. They are the only undefeated team in SEC play. Quite the performance from the Aggies. And after the game, this is first down of 3 and out. First-year head coach Mike Elko went to the podium, and you thought he might be happy, Jake. You thought he might have some rah-rah speech for the fans, for his players, for the supporters. Instead, he went a different direction. We got to break this down. Listen to what Texas A&M coach Mike Elko had to say right after their big win against LSU.
We're very honest. We're very open, and this is a real program. It's not fake. It's not a politician running this program talking fast and BSing everybody. This is a real program, and for all the recruits out there, this is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
Shots fired at
Absolutely.
who? At who, Jake Fromm?
Yeah, that is a a great question. So I'm scrolling through the feed on Sunday and Monday, kind of before we film this, and I see it. I pop up, I listen to it. I'm like, wow, dang, that's a hard shot at Brian Kelly, the head coach of the LSU Tigers. And then, I text you, hey, let's make sure we talk about this on the show. And you're like, well, is it Brian Kelly or is it Jimbo Fisher? I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know all the ins and the outs of what's going on there at Texas A&M. What I do know is that this game was very, very important because LSU and both Texas A&M were undefeated in the SEC. Like, this game right here was huge to see who might have a chance to go to the SEC championship game and move on and try to advance their college football playoff season. So just huge repercussions in this game. And this was a gritty, physical game, especially in the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas A&M just absolutely ran the ball all over LSU. Now, LSU had 405 passing yards, but they only had 24 rushing yards. And like, just a complete inverse. Yeah. Complete inverse there for Texas A&M, 134 passing yards to 242 rushing yards. So this was a physical football game. And man, if you cannot play hard-nosed, tough physical football in the SEC, you're going to have a hard time winning football games. I cannot wait to hear your opinion on who this shot was directed at.
Well, yeah. I mean, first off, you're totally right about style of play, especially in the SEC, especially as the season continues to deepen, right? You're getting into week 10, week 11. It's November. Injuries are mounting. You have to be able to run the football and at least gain some time of possession. Give your defense a break. Find some sort of rhythm. 24. Did you say 24 total rushing yards?
24 total rushing yards.
You'll lose every game. And Garrett Nussmeier, as he was getting some Heisman love before the week, 25 of 50, 405 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions. You and I talked about it last Thursday. I thought Texas A&M, because Nussmeier is not a mobile quarterback, keep him in the pocket, get after him, make him make some mistakes. They did exactly that. I will give Mike Elko and Texas A&M a lot of credit. Connor Wigman, it wasn't really working out. Only 7 points in the first half. They pull him, put Marcel Reed in. Marcel Reed only 2 passing attempts for 70 yards, but 62 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. The guy just brings a different dynamic to the ability for Colin Klein, their offensive coordinator, to get into the playbook. That's exactly what they did. They opened it up. They scored 31 points in the second half. They get a huge victory. Again, Texas A&M, still the only remaining undefeated team in the SEC. Now, for Mike Elko's quote after the game, it is 100% directed at Jimbo Fisher, former head coach at Texas A&M. Yeah, of course, Mike Elko got a few transfers in. This is Jimbo Fisher's team that he is coaching with right now, right? He is undefeated in the SEC. They lost to Notre Dame in week 1. They are on track to make it to Atlanta to play in the SEC championship game, to make it to the college football playoff. Him saying this is a real football program, this is not some fast-paced talking politician BSing everybody, that is directly pointed at Jimbo Fisher. If you want to come here and be a football player and get developed, this is a place for you. That is 100% directed at Jimbo Fisher. Keep in mind, Mike Elko getting paid dramatically less than what Jimbo Fisher was getting paid and got paid to leave. He's simply saying the times have changed. We are here. Texas A&M is for real. I am a football coach. I am not a fast-talking politician. I thought that was extremely interesting, but again, huge win for Texas A&M. You've been talking about the Texas A&M Fighting Aggies for weeks now, Jake, because you've been looking at their schedule and you've been saying if they keep winning games, they're going to be in a very good position to be in the SEC championship game. Their remaining games at South Carolina this weekend, which is a night game in Columbia, it'll be rocking there. Versus New Mexico State, that's a dub. At Auburn, you would assume that's a win. And then home versus Texas on Thanksgiving weekend. That game will have major implications. The first time those two teams have played in probably 10 plus, 15 plus years. So A&M looking good, and you've been on that train the whole time, Jake.
Yeah, man, you kind of beat me to the schedule. I was like, I had it pulled up. I'm like, dude, they have a chance. Their window is right there. Get through South Carolina. You could even lose that game to South Carolina and then beat Texas at the end. I mean, hey, this is totally doable. It is there. It's there for the taking. Texas looking very, very human. And then you also mentioned one thing I do want to bring up here and put a bow here on first down, but there's a premium on teams, especially late in the year, especially in the NFL, okay, who can take care of the football, play good defense, can run the ball, because the game of football changes. September, October football is completely different than December, January football. It is just different, guys. The weather gets colder, ball feels different. It's just
guys are grittier up. Yes.
Man, is a grittier physical.
Your opponent so much better. You got more tape to watch. It just changes. You are 1,000,000% correct, Jake Fromm. I appreciate you telling everybody that, because it is the truth. The last time A&M played Texas was 2011. That's crazy.
That's a long time.
Crazy. So that's going to be a big time game. I would expect that's going to be an awesome game this weekend, though. A&M at South Carolina. You better believe South Carolina's defensive line going to be able to get after Marcel Reed, hopefully contain him. When you think about Georgia, if Georgia were to play Texas A&M in the SEC championship game, I would immediately have worries, because Marcel Reed is a mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
That's it. That is the one kryptonite that can give a Kirby Smart defense problems, is a mobile quarterback. So we'll see. Still a ton of football to go. The SEC standings as it is right now, A&M at the top, 5-0 in conference, followed by Georgia, who's 4-1 with, of course, a big win over Texas. Texas is 3-1. Tennessee's 3-1. LSU's 3-1. And then Bama's 3-2, as is Arkansas and some others. So things are starting to take shape. And, of course, the shape will continue to be formed after this weekend. Georgia playing Florida down in Jacksonville, Ole Miss at Arkansas, Vanderbilt at Auburn, Texas A&M at South Carolina, and Kentucky at Tennessee. That is your SEC slate. All right, let's go to second down. Let's recap kind of what happened this past weekend, Jake. As I said, there were games on. Of course, if you're a college football fanatic like myself, it always has your interest on a Saturday. Maybe a little bit more left to be desired after this weekend, but a big game was at noon. A team that we've covered a lot on this show, the Navy Midshipmen, took on Notre Dame in the Meadowlands, and Navy turned the ball over 6 times. Coach, you're not going to win a lot of football games when you turn the ball over 6 times.
Yeah, I was a little hurt on this one because we had walkthrough and then we finished, and man, I got to tune on and see what's going on in college football, and saw the score of this game, and I was so hurt, so devastated, because I had so much hope and faith in these guys. But
just to make it a game.
Make
it a game. Yeah.
That's right. And you can't turn the ball over. Not when you play a good coached football team. You can't make those kind of mistakes.
No, you're totally right. So Navy, I guess that feel-good story maybe takes a backseat. Keep in mind, they're still competing in the American Athletic Conference. Army is still undefeated as well. Who does Army have coming up this weekend? I know they've got a big game as well. They take on Air Force this weekend, and I believe next week they take on Notre Dame. No, Notre Dame is the 23rd, so the week before Thanksgiving. But Notre Dame, they're looking good too. I mean, they're obviously very well situated in the college football playoff picture, which we'll get to in just a second. Auburn gets on the board with their first conference victory on the road at Kentucky. Man, it seems like after they almost beat Georgia, they have gone the wrong direction, Jake. Things are not looking too good up in Lexington.
Yeah, man, it's tough up there, like you said, and you continue to say, I can't believe you didn't say it, but it is basketball season.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely basketball season in Lexington. Shout out to Sam Pittman and the Fighting Sam Pittmans, the Arkansas Razorbacks. They put up 58 points on Mississippi State over the weekend, Jake. I believe they had 600 and something total offensive yards. Yeah, 359 passing yards. 359 rushing yards, 314 passing yards. So a huge day for Arkansas as they are on the board. And then how about Vanderbilt? 25th ranked Vanderbilt Commodores welcoming in the 5th ranked Texas Longhorns. And, buddy, they put up a fight. They lose 27-24. Great start, 7-0. Forced a Quinn Ewers interception early. Texas, of course, has way more talent. Texas, of course, a prohibitive favorite in the game. They kind of start chipping away at him, but no lay down from Vanderbilt. They fight their way all the way back. They score 14 second-half points, Jake. They get it into 3. They kick an onside kick. Don't get it. They lose to Texas by 3 at home.
Yeah, I mean, Diego Pavia just seems to be that guy. Obviously doing a great job throwing the football, the leading rusher in that game as well, just doing everything he can to give his team a fighting chance, and came back there at the end of that game, just giving them a chance, and I guess against a very good Texas football team. But man, I say leave them ranked. If you're going to go toe to toe with the top 5 team in the country like that, dude, leave them ranked. I cannot wait to see kind of how they finish up and continue to play as the season progresses.
No, a great showing from Vanderbilt. They are not a flash in the pan. They're a good football team this year for sure. Our producer Spencer chimes in. We were just talking about Navy and Army. Is the conspiracy theory dead about teams having admitted that they had spies, and of course Army and Navy being service academies, both being undefeated? Look, Spencer, when you turn the ball over 6 times,
that's right.
I could give you the entire playbook and let you know what plays are running. You're not going to win football. I don't care what you know. Just not going to happen. So
that's right. Great take.
Unfortunate for Navy. Alabama, 34-0. Missouri, Brady Cook gets knocked out of the game. Drew Pine comes in. That was not a good sight. They blank Missouri 34-0. That's pretty much your SEC recap on the weekend. Looking ahead, though, to week 10, Jake, we got some pretty good games, man. Of course, Georgia, Florida. How about Fowler and Herbstreit will be on the call? That, of course, is at 3:30 on ABC, so that'll be a good one. A&M at South Carolina. Our buddy Sean McDonough will be on that call with Greg McElroy. Ohio State
there it is.
Penn State.
Yep.
Noon, big game. Penn State undefeated. Ohio State has that one conference loss to Oregon, so a must win for them. And when you think about the Big Ten, Jake, think about this. Indiana, undefeated in conference play.
How about
Oregon,
that?
Undefeated in conference play. Penn State, undefeated in conference play. Talk about that Big Ten championship game. How would tickets sell with a little Oregon-Indiana matchup? Who knows? It is in Indianapolis, so obviously Hoosier fans would love that. But, you're starting to see some of these instances pop up to where you're like, wow, it's time to really start figuring out who are the contenders and who are the pretenders.
Yeah, starting to unravel, like you're saying. A team to look out for, man, I'm telling you, is Clemson.
Yeah.
Look, they had that blowout loss there to Georgia early. But, man, they continue to keep chopping wood. They're scoring a lot of points on offense. They're starting to figure some things out. Got Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh, Citadel, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Now, totally doable. They're going to find themselves, I think, into the dance. And watch out for them, man. I think they're a good football team. I really do.
No, you bring up, first off, Clemson, yes. ACC, bigger picture, though. Here are all the undefeated teams in ACC play right now. Clemson, Miami, SMU, and Pitt. They're all undefeated in ACC play. So what I'm saying is with these super conferences, divisions have gone by the wayside. Now it's just the top 2 teams. We're going to see some really interesting tiebreaker scenarios play out. We're going to see some really interesting battles as to who plays who doesn't play who gets to maybe avoid a Miami. Like Clemson doesn't play Miami in the regular season, right? So Miami doesn't have to play Clemson either. Miami's looking really good. Cam Ward's looking really good. I know we're kind of going rapid fire here, but it's fascinating to look at some of these scenarios because these conference championship games, which are going to have more implications. Conference champs get bye weeks, right? If you don't make the conference championship, of course, then you get a de facto bye week as well, given you will be ranked in the top 12. So it's just a really interesting situation because it's something that we've never had to deal with before, Jake.
Yeah, and I can't wait to hear the strategy talk about, do you want to be one of those teams? Do you not want to be one of those teams? To me, a bye week in football is huge. Huge. Now, you can make the argument in playoff baseball, Major League Baseball, where having that series off, but getting into the playoffs may
lose
not
that
be
momentum.
a great thing. You kind of lose that momentum. Guys aren't seeing pitches, that whole kind of thing. But to me, in football, especially the NFL, and in college, and you give some of these coaches an extra week to prepare for an opponent, man, you are seeing some great schemed up plays, and it can get explosive real fast.
And if I'm not mistaken, I mean, if you don't play in a conference championship game, you should know you should know who you're playing, right? I guess it would really just depend on who else are in the conference championship games, if they would then be backed out into that 5 to 12 range, which then you'd get matched up with. But that's my biggest question, and I'm kind of thinking out loud right now. You know, if you get that bye week, then of course you have to wait and see who you're going to play, and then you can self-scout or whatever you want to do in terms of that bye week. But if you don't play on conference championship weekend, then you're going to be in that 5 to 12 range. Surely there will be some teams that lose the conference championship games, but then still make it into the college football playoff, maybe. And then I guess you'd have to kind of look around and see how you'd want to take advantage of that off week, but pretty fascinating nonetheless. Speaking of the college football playoffs, that takes us to third down. ESPN's All-State Playoff Predictor put out their percentages of making the college football playoff earlier today. Spencer, throw this up and just keep it on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see. So these are the playoff contenders. Miami right now has an 89.6% chance to make the playoff, which is pretty fascinating. Notre Dame, 58.6% chance. Clemson, those Clemson Tigers you were just talking about, Jake, a 32% chance to make it to the college football playoff. SMU and Pitt, below 30%. Out of the Big 12, BYU's undefeated. They've got a 57.2% chance. Iowa State is undefeated. They've got a 45.6% chance. And then Kansas State and Colorado follow them up as far as chances to make it to the college football playoff. The Big 10, Oregon in a really good position, 87% chance. Penn State looking good, will be virtually 100% if they beat Ohio State this weekend, Jake. 84% chance for Penn State, 72% for Ohio State. Kind of surprised with Indiana, only a 68.6% chance to make it to the college football playoff. Did you watch any of them? Have you been keeping your eye on Indiana and their high-powered offense?
No, I haven't. I've been seeing them come up about how good their coach is and what they're doing. I'm not as familiar with Indiana as I wish I was. I think 68% is pretty relatively high. I got to look and see who they play left on their schedule.
Michigan State, Michigan, at Ohio State, and home versus Purdue.
I mean, to me, that's 3-1 right there.
It's pretty doable. Yeah,
it's totally doable, right?
Yeah.
That's doable. And then I also saw a tweet earlier today about BYU being the most underrated football team in college football right now, and they got a 57% chance to make it. Man, watch out for the Cougars, man. They can pull one out.
Let me say one thing about BYU. They have quite possibly the best story going in college football right now, and I don't know if it's just because people don't want to talk about it, but their quarterback is Jewish. Jake Retzlaff is his name.
Really?
They say there's only like 3 or 4 Jewish students at BYU.
He's one of them.
Yes, and he is leading the BYU Cougars to an undefeated season. You know, if you live under a rock, BYU is a Mormon university. I mean, they have to follow the Mormon ways of life. If you're a student, you sign on, to the student code of conduct, which means like no caffeine, no premarital sex, all this stuff. The quarterback is Jewish. He's crushing it. Shout out to that guy.
That's hilarious and ironic to me. I think that's hilarious.
It's a great story. We'll go to the SEC here. Georgia, an 84.7% chance to make the college football playoff. Texas, right behind them at 75%. Tennessee, 67%. Alabama at 53%. And then the most shocking to me, Texas A&M, undefeated in conference play. Right now, per the All-State Playoff Predictor, just a 48.6% chance to make the college football playoff. Interesting. Keep in mind, they do have a loss to Notre Dame, but I just found that to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, if they just didn't schedule that game to Notre Dame, now we're talking, them finishing out at 3-1 and being 11-1 total on the season. If they didn't play Notre Dame in that first game, or if they win it, I don't know. Then they would be right there in the middle of the mix. Boise State's got a good chance too with our hopefully future Heisman Trophy winner, Ashton Genty. So man, it's going to unravel here in the next couple of weeks. And then, let's not forget, Georgia still has to play Florida, Tennessee, and Ole Miss here coming
Yeah.
up. So that they have some big games and some big tests. And I think 84% is pretty high. I'm very confident in them doing it, but it's not a given by any stretch of the imagination.
No, you're totally right. The game time for the Georgia Ole Miss matchup was announced earlier today as well. That game is November the 9th. It will be at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on ABC. So the Dogs avoid another road night game. Georgia's a 16.5-point favorite against Florida this weekend. And as you mentioned, Boise State, a 60% chance to make the college football playoff. A group of 5 team will make it. Army right behind them at 21%. Tulane at 10%. Spencer, you can take that graphic down. I appreciate you, my man. Good stuff there. Really good stuff. And look, it's November. It's crazy to think this weekend is November. College football season starting to wind down. This is the home stretch, Coach.
Yeah, we're on the home stretch. It's about to get fun. For me personally, the heated debates in the locker room are really about to get spiced up. All these great conversations that I wish our listeners just could feel and understand about just how intense and emotional some of these conversations get in an NFL locker room, talking about, of course, their team and what they believe is right. And I'm sure you guys have these conversations as well.
Oh, no.
But just from our perspective, man, they get fun, and just it's always a little bit sweeter too when your team's playing a little bit better. So can't wait.
So I guess with that being said, I'll ask you, what is your one bold prediction for the last 5 weeks of the college football season?
I tell you what, I would really love to see the chaos of Texas A&M beating Texas in that last game of the regular season there. And then Texas A&M then, in theory, playing Georgia in the SEC championship.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty chaotic. I think that'd be pretty cool. Can't wait to see it. I think Miami also, there's no reason to believe that they don't finish things out as one of
their schedule is a joke. Have you seen their schedule?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a literal joke. They play, they're off this week, I believe. No, they play Duke this weekend, at Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse.
I mean, they are. It's some teams got it, man. They're timed up, hitting it right.
Yeah.
Kudos to them, man, going and getting a quarterback in Cam Ward, having the guys, and of course, the good coaches to put it all together. But it's looking good for those guys. Give them a bye week and give them some time to scheme some things up, man. Miami could be a very, very dangerous football team down the stretch.
But again, a Miami-Clemson ACC championship game would be great. That would be great ACC championship game. The one thing, my bold prediction is, and I just feel like with one of these conference championship games, there is going to be like a level 4 or level 5 tiebreak scenario, to where it's going to be like, who were the common opponents? What was your best ranked win? Whatever that nonsense is that they had to write, because there's like 12 tiebreakers, and then it ends with a coin flip, like in Friday Night Lights opening scene. One conference championship game, that's my bold prediction, will go like pretty deep into a tiebreak scenario. The thing that I would hate, like if Georgia for some reason missed the SEC championship game, I would just hate for it to be two, SEC West teams, like A&M and an Ole Miss, right? Like whatever that might look like. The beauty of the SEC championship game in years past was the convergence of those two fan bases, an Alabama and a Georgia, a Florida and an Auburn, right? Like if it was Texas A&M and Georgia, those two teams haven't played that much, like whatever it might be, I would just want to avoid a non-exciting conference championship game. That would be one of my hopes and dreams with the last 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great take. I think it was a couple years ago. I think the Big 12 had some kind of intricate tiebreaker scenario where I think somebody got shafted and left out of the conference championship game, who easily on paper and passing the eye test should have been there, but the tiebreaker went to someone else. Not necessarily familiar with it, but I knew that was a couple years ago when that went on. So totally possible and probably will happen in some capacity this year.
Yep. Well, we got a lot of football until those scenarios have
That's
to come to fruition. So we love that. We love talking about it right here with you. We hope you've been enjoying this season of Punt and Pass as well. Be sure to follow us on social media. Of course, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get podcasts. We're at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. We're at Drew Butler and at From Jake on X and Instagram as well, puntandpass.com. Got to give one more major shout out to our presenting partner, Solomon Brothers Jewelers. Listen, people. The holidays are right around the corner. I just told you, Halloween is on Thursday. You will blink, Thanksgiving will be here. You will blink again, it will be Christmas week. You better get your affairs in order. And you have to go over to Solomon Brothers Jewelers to make sure that you're best situated so that your significant other loves you this holiday season. You don't want them to not love you. The holidays are about love, friendship, family, gathering, camaraderie. You know what makes that easier? When you provide your significant other with a beautiful piece of jewelry from Solomon Brothers. Obviously, go into a Solomon Brothers location. There's 3 for you to choose from. One's in Atlanta, 17th floor, Tower Place in Buckhead. The other in the North Metro, just past the Avalon in Alpharetta, and a brand new location down south of the city in Sharpsburg. You walk into the store, you tell them Punt and Pass sent you, you receive 20% off your jewelry purchase. It's as simple as that. You can get a cold beverage from their full bar. You can sit down if you're a guy in one of those very comfortable chairs. Watch a game. Let your significant other roam around. All the while, you get 20% off that jewelry purchase because you mentioned Punt and Pass. Solomon Brothers in-store selection is absolutely unmatched. Their employees are top tier. They've got watches. They've got beautiful diamond jewelry necklaces. They've got your engagement rings and your wedding bands. Solomon Brothers is the best. Check them out online, SolomonBrothers.com, at Solomon Brothers on social media. Jake Fromm, anything on the way out, my man?
Yeah, something you said reminded me of the great philosopher Kenny Chesney, and he has a
I love
song
Kenny.
titled "Don't Blink." Man, we're in that time of football season. Weather's
know.
changing. It's beautiful outside. Man, this is what we wished for and we prayed for. Don't blink, and you'll miss it. So enjoy
Today's
it
the
while
sports
it's here.
equinox as well. All 4 major sports leagues are in action. Obviously, Monday Night Football, World Series, NBA's back, NHL
Wow.
is live as well. So it doesn't happen too often. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this Week 9 Roundup Punt and Pass episode. Have an awesome week, and we will talk to you on Thursday. See ya.
We out.